familia, and welcome to another episode of Fire and Butterflies, where courage meets authenticity. I'm losing my own motto. Where vulnerability meets authenticity, where courage meets love, and where fire meets butterflies. And I am your host, Comadre Cristal. And today I have the honor and privilege to have Haley Hoover on. She is a business mindset energy coach and honestly, she's my profession, like she's my own personal coach. So I'm truly blessed and honored that Haley is on here today. And so, yes, Haley, take the floor, introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you, Crystal, and all of you listeners and viewers. I think this is just a really cool show, and it's an honor to be a part of it. So, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you so much. So, Haley, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your journey. I love to ask the question, what was your rock bottom? What happened that got you to what you're doing today? Because you're transforming lives. You're helping other small business owners, especially in the spiritual aspect of life. You're helping them and you're doing a great job. I mean, not to not to brag or anything, but you've helped me with my with Love Your Now Comadre tremendously. So I'm curious, like how did you get to this point? Because you do great things, and so please
Oh,
share.
well, thank you. You make me blush. Yeah, I think my story is maybe a little bit unique. Maybe there's some listeners who can relate to this, but I feel like around the year I turned 16, I started getting like these really deep spiritual inner knowings of, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to help people. Um, that kind of grew through my last years in high school, through my first years in college, and there was a point. So I would call this my first rock bottom. There's a lot of them, right? When we go through our journeys.
Right? We yes, so many.
Yeah, and they keep coming.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes. But anyway, there was a point when I was actually one semester away from graduating college. I was getting a degree in public relations because everybody told me that was fits my personality and it was a great job, a great field to go into. I was making straight A's, I was top of my class, blah blah blah. And I was just not at all happy. Like I wasn't satisfied, I wasn't fulfilled, and from the outside, everything was like great. And I think everyone expected me to like graduate and go get a job in Chicago or New York or LA. And I know I could have. But at the same time, in the background of my life, I had started my first blog a few years earlier and I was just consumed with it. And this is, you know, 2011, 2012. So like blogging was pretty new and like making money on the internet was pretty new. And I didn't know how I was going to make a living, but I remember just telling people I'm going to help people with my art, my blog, and like something with journaling because I was like racing home from school and just journaling my thoughts. I was writing these blog posts. I was designing my blog pages, my logos. Like I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. Like I love this. And so there was this moment, and I was reading some book about, following your heart, being authentic, that kind of stuff. And I remember, I don't even remember what I read exactly, but I remember I just had this moment where I just sobbed and like broke down. Something inside me just like clicked open. And I don't know why this is what I visualized in my head, but it was like, okay, I'm trying to fit into this, massively corporate world, this corporate college and this corporate career that I'm about to graduate and go into. And, every ounce of my planner is filled up for the next month and everything is just all set. And then I was writing with a black pen. And I remember I just looked at this pen and it broke my heart because I was like, this isn't me. I don't even like the color black. Like I will use colors. Where's the purple pens? Where's the pink pens? Where's my crayons?
Wow.
Where's my art? Like this isn't me at
Yeah.
all. And it was such a silly moment, but I went straight to Walmart and I bought a whole pack of purple pens. Like that one action, I feel I know like spurred me into like being myself
Hmm.
and staying true to that journey of helping whatever that was, right? It was this abstract idea of helping people with the internet. And long story short, I dropped out of college, completely freaked my parents out. I lost all my friends, was kicked out of the spiritual groups I was a part of at the time. And it was the best thing I could have done because it was probably the first time in my life me doing something that was authentic to who I was and what my soul was here to do.
Mm. Oh, can we just take a moment to acknowledge the amount of courage that took? Haley, like just listening to that, because it's funny, I didn't even know any of this. So just for me to hear you share all of this, I'm thinking to myself, Cristal, you would have never dropped out. Like it just I was so plugged in. I was so plugged into the matrix. Like I was so plugged in that I never like the thought of disappointing my family, the thought of letting go of the dreams and goals that I thought I needed. I Oh, that takes so much courage. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. You are so courageous. Like I really hope you acknowledge that part of you because that took some ovaries.
Yeah,
That took some ovaries.
thank you. I looking back, yeah, I think that I'm like, who did that? Who was
I
that?
know, right? Oh, okay. So you dropped out of college, and then so now you're facing this world. What proceeded after that? Because that's still quite a leap from doing that to now being a successful business coach. And yeah, so tell me.
Yeah, so I had just turned 21 when that happened. So really young. I would say a little bit naive, but
Mm.
I think the hardest part was all the rejection I faced for that choice. Like everyone thought I was crazy. My parents accused me of being on drugs, um, worshiping the devil, and like everyone just dropped me. And so for the first time I was like on my own fully and completely, which was wonderful. So I waitressed, I bartended, I had the time of my life. I really found myself a lot in those, it was about 2 years. Then I realized, okay, I have a semester left. I need to go back. So I always have to share that. I did go back to college. I finished. But what happened after that is I had these dreams of like traveling and just letting my free spirit come out. And again, just continuing to nurture this art and blog thing that was happening. And I did let people get to me again, I think. So I actually had bought a snowboard. It's funny because I've been meditating on this the last few weeks too, so it's really fresh in my mind. I went and bought a snowboard. I got approved to teach snowboarding in Santa Fe, New Mexico. That was my dream at the time. I was ready to go. And someone really close to me in my life basically was like, I don't think that's very smart. And so I sent the snowboard back and I got my first PR job. And again, it was very much the same story. So this happens, so the college one, and then this happens two other times in my life before I really like break free of it. But um yeah, I had this great PR job and I was in the public light all the time and everyone thought I was so great at my job and it was so good. And it was a good job and I did have fun, but there was every day I'd go home and there was like this aching in my heart is the only way I know how to say it and like deep in my belly, like this isn't it though. This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm meant for something so much bigger than this. And so I'd go home and I would paint and I would write. I wrote my first journal during that time period, Brazenly Beautiful, that came out of me. And I just spent every waking hour working on this blog. I was like, something with this blog is going to change lives. It's going to help people. And I don't know how to get there. Um, so I feel like I'm drawing this out.
No,
Um,
no, this is your platform. This is your
oh,
space. So draw it out as long as you need to. This is it.
right.
Wow, this is fascinating stuff. So trust me, I'm engaged.
Okay. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. yeah, so I had that job for 2 years and was very successful, and the whole time having that nagging in my chest. And so after 2 years, I quit my job and I moved to Australia.
Wow, another courageous move. I Haley, wow. But again, and I think this is so important for all the listeners out there. When we step into our power, that is the beauty, but then it's also a reminder that people are always like people, situations, life is going to come back and try to bring you back in and try to take your power away. And there's nothing wrong with us going back into what we think is best. Again, we're surviving, we're doing the best we can, and you know, you went back to school, but it also sounds like it was what you wanted to do because you were saying, well, I want to do this.
Yeah,
Is just life takes us another way, but it's always that reminder of life happens for you, not to you. And it's that
ma'am.
reminder for what I'm hearing also is you going into the PR, you also got to learn a lot of skills because I mean, the coaching that you and I have done, like the coaching you've done with me, like you bring in a lot of your PR experience into it.
Mhm.
So you were supposed to go to PR for those 2 years, even if
Yeah.
it didn't feel like it was calling your soul, but it was serving your purpose in the long
Yes.
run. So, oh, I mean, so you moved to Australia. Okay.
Exactly. I'm
What?
glad
That's
you pointed
amazing.
I'm glad you pointed that out because even though it didn't feel aligned to be in PR, it is definitely that's a lot of how I've built my business and
It
helped other
is.
people. So I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I spent a year in Australia, traveling all over, working really hard jobs, just making enough money to go to the next stop. I spent a lot of my free time again, building the blog, writing, um, painting, experiencing new different types of paintings. All of this from my little backpack.
Oh, that's so amazing. So cool.
It was truly an incredible, life-changing trip. Um, but yeah, I did come back, went back to a PR job for 2 more years, but this time the internet was a little bit further developed.
Hmm.
So I really feel like I have grown up, especially most millennials probably feel this way, but I have grown up with the internet, with social media had just came out when I was entering college. And so like literally we studied it and my whole life I have not stopped studying social media. So it's kind of fascinating. But anyway, this time when I came back home, took a PR job, uh, I started working with coaches for the first time. It's the first time I'd heard of coaches. I was listening to all these like self-development podcasts. I hired my first coach and did a huge deprogramming of money mindset. And I was like, I want more of this. So I got my life coaching certifications. First time I'd heard of that. My first life coaching certification. I was like, great. I learned a lot about business, how to start my own business. And that was when the Sparkling Hippie blog had been in existence for a while, but the business got launched while I was at that job.
Oh,
And
cool.
as it started, I felt again courageous and I was like, I know I'm not meant to stay in PR. So I quit that job and moved to New Zealand for a year.
Wow. How cool is
So,
that?
I want to say something too. This is just coming up for me. Because I get misunderstood a lot on I've had comments like, oh, it must be nice to just be able to afford these trips and like travel and but
Right.
I did this very, very, very when I say cheaply, you can't my current lifestyle living in America and like not I mean, I live with my mom at the moment. So, you know what I mean? I spend more on the monthly basis here than I did on these trips.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
I'm talking backpacking. In New Zealand, we bought a van, lived out of a van. So, it was just the most very spiritual opening way
Hmm.
to travel, both of those trips. It was, relying on strangers and doing jobs I wouldn't necessarily ever do here in the
Hmm.
state. Um, Working for people. And I had one freelance gig I took with me that paid for my monthly expenses. So
Hmm.
anyway, I always want to share that, and that's a whole different conversation. But if anyone has a dream to travel, do not let finances stop you.
Mm-hmm.
Your only hurdle is your mind.
Yeah.
So I have lots to say about that, but I just was feeling like I needed to share that. Um, okay, so a year in the van, really trying to grow my business, experiencing more life, opening up to who I was. During this time, I got my second life coaching certification. This one was much more spiritual based.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was mindset based. So you can start to see how I bring all this together in my work.
Yeah, yeah, I do. How
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. So this one was spiritual. It was all about intuition. My spiritual gifts really came to light during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we were living out of the van when COVID hit. So
Oh,
yeah, so we
oh,
actually got trapped over there. Like you could not fly out of the country. Like no one, I don't know if
yeah.
anybody remembers that. Like it was really scary to be told you can't go home at all. And we
Yeah.
were at the end of our trip anyway, ready to come back, and
Oh,
we couldn't. Which actually ended up being a really, really beautiful gift because that was when I discovered I could channel messages through art. I started realizing I had these energy healing gifts because the world shut down, so we couldn't
yeah.
work, couldn't travel. We were
Mm-hmm.
just stuck in this beautiful mountain town.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I had my paints and my blog. And anyway, then that really, I would say, as we came back from COVID later in 2020, that's where my business really started to take off because I think I had combined these two pieces of myself, this like really ooey gooey spiritual, energetic healer piece and this success driven, mindset savvy, um, more of the like masculine piece of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
They had like combined, and then I was
Yeah.
ready to share that with the world. So,
Yeah.
so
Wow.
that's kind of where how I got to where I am today, I guess.
Oh, I love that, especially because you're right, exactly what you just said. Um, you you merged both the feminine energy and the masculine energy because it's so true. Like business, like being a small business owner, regardless if it's spiritual business or not, like you do have to tap into both of those energies as a business owner because you do have to do the creation, you do have to do the caring, the loving part of it, and then you also have to do the hardworking and the grinding and the chasing and the
Yep.
it's yes. And so that's so true of being able to merge those two together. And I think that's why for me personally I've enjoyed working with you because when I worked with other coaches like I could not get like I could not express my feelings of I just want to unplug from the matrix or I don't want to follow this standard because it doesn't feel right to me. And they wouldn't like like some coaches would just not understand me and I'm like I again, as all of my loyal listeners know, I manifest by praying. Like I just pray to God. I'm like, God, please send me someone. Please help me with this. I don't know what to do. And that's how I got connected with you. I actually, for local folks here in the Central Valley, the way I got connected with Haley was through the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center.
Yep.
Um, and that's how I got connected with Haley. But if it wasn't for that, I don't know how I would have gotten connected with you because you live in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I know. So it's just so fascinating how these things unwind. So tell us a little bit more about like how did that happen? How did you get involved with the Central Valley living in Oklahoma? And not just that, but you also, I mean, you've done presentations for Google. Like you've really have been out there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so after it's actually the perfect segue because after we got back from New Zealand, my boyfriend at the time and I did move to Sonora, California. So,
Oh,
just
I
above
love
the
Sonora.
Central Valley. Most people don't know it. It's a kind of a small town, but in the foothills, beautiful, beautiful town. And yeah, business was kind of rocking and rolling there. Everything was good. And then at the very end of 2021, my dad passed away very, very suddenly. Um, no warning, and if you've ever lost a parent, I think your listeners, I think that it just changes everything. I
Yes.
try to explain it to people, and you don't know till you've been through it, but it just changes everything.
Hmm.
Um, and so this, as you were just describing, this masculine energy that it takes to run a business, right? Like promoting yourself and marketing and going out and getting new clients. And um, that energy wasn't there for, I thought, a year. Looking back now, I would say the last 2 years, I have not been fully, I'm just now kind of starting to feel more fully back in my full essence.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because we think, oh, I grieved for a month. I'm ready. Let's go move on. And here I am 2.5 years later. And I've just this month talked to a holistic health practitioner, a therapist, and a coach. And they're all like, you're processing everything that's happened. And I'm like, oh, grace, 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 grace. So we don't give ourselves enough grace.
We don't.
Um, no. But during that year following, and I was just like kind of a haze for definitely a year. You're not sure what happened and where you're at and what this new normal looks like. During that time, there's this amazing older gentleman that I had become friends with from networking and marketing around Sonora. And he had kept for like a year. He had been telling me, come work for the SBDC. And I'm like, dude, I'm already busy. I don't need another job. I don't need. And, he had heard my dad died and, gave me my space or whatever. And then he approached me again and he said, I really think you should consider, working with us at the SBDC. And I was like, okay, like he's like, the client, they provide the clients, you're not marketing yourself. And I was like, that sounds amazing right now. So he got me connected. And I've got to say, like, I hope some SBDC people are listening, but SBDC has been one of the biggest blessings in my life. And I mean, I may even get emotional. If it weren't for that connection, I would have definitely had to go back to PR. There's no way I could have kept my doors open and supported myself with my business. They have, I mean, I don't even know how to express the gratitude. They have just, it's sustained my livelihood the last 2 years, 2.5 years. Um, so then there came a moment. I moved to my story. I'm all over. I moved to Colorado, and I really thought that the SBDC was going to say, "Well, you have to live here," because so just to give folks an understanding, there are SBDC centers all over America. It
Hmm.
is the best kept secret, and it's not a secret, right? Like it's free help for your business. They're everywhere, but every state operates differently. And within like California, like so Oklahoma, we only have one SBDC for the whole state.
Oh,
Whereas,
wow.
yeah, yeah. And so whereas California, there's, I don't know, probably 20 something
Hmm.
SBDCs, and it's
Hmm.
by different counties, different regions. So they're all ran independently, but they're
Hmm.
funded through the Small Business Association.
Hmm.
So the specific SBDC, Valley Sierra, which serves Modesto, I guess Stanislaus, Tuolumne County,
Hmm.
it is run very, very well. All of the centers in California, I feel like, are run very well. Um, so I really thought when I went to tell them I'm moving, I thought they were going to be like, sorry, you're out, go work for Colorado if that's where you're going. And I'd already looked and there just wasn't the same opportunities for me in Colorado or Oklahoma SBDC as there
Mm.
was where I was already serving and where I already love my clients. I love the people of the Central Valley. I love all of it. It's a good vibe for me. Um, anyway, very fortunately, they were like, nope, you're making a difference. You keep, bringing results for your clients. We want to keep you on. So again, the SBDC, like that safety net, that gift from God, like just really pulled me through Colorado, which was a really tough time. I broke up with my partner of 6 years while I was there. And in a 48-hour period, moved back to Oklahoma without much thought. And there again, the SBDC, I landed on my feet in Oklahoma, plugged my computer in, and I'm at work. And so
Hmm.
again, like they have helped me support myself, and it has been such a joy. It is like I love helping people from the
Yeah.
from the Central Valley. I love helping them grow their businesses. I love helping them be their best selves. And the best part, we haven't even shared with your listeners. So if you're in that area, right? And I am also now approved for Merced and Mariposa counties. So any
Oh, how
listeners,
exciting.
yeah. So any listeners in that whole Central Valley area, definitely reach out. But it's free. It is free to utilize the services of the
Yeah.
SBDC. And I just think what better way to serve people and grow awesome businesses? I feel like that's the heartline of America, right? Like these small
Hmm.
businesses and doing creative things like you're doing, like healing people and coaching people and helping them live their best lives. Like me helping you is just making the planet a better place. You
Hmm.
know, it's an honor.
No, yeah, oh, I so see that. I love that. And and for the listeners who are not in California, I highly encourage all of you go look for the SBDC in your area. Maybe there's something there that can help you, especially if for those of you who are thinking about starting a small business or just want to dab into it and see if it's for you, if it's your calling. Um, because yeah, especially it's so funny to go back a little bit of what you mentioned about what happened in 2020. I mean, that was also the time when there was a lot of shifts happening energetically.
Oh
And a
yeah.
lot of people felt that. A lot of people felt that what am I doing with my life? Like what
Mhm.
this is not serving me. This is not serving my soul. So I did see a lot of uprise in the spiritual community during during the pandemic of 2020 and then following through. Just Google it, SBDC, my area, and get connected with them. I mean, like you said, all states run differently and all regions run differently, but definitely look into it. You never know.
Yep.
It might be, they might provide something that you need, they might not, and that's okay. Because it also sounds like, and I love that this happened to you because this is what I like to call butterfly moments. It's it's those moments in our life when we're so determined, this is the path I want, this is the journey I want, this is the results I want. And spirit will come in and say, "No, I'll send you someone else. I'll send you someone to nudge you." And so it sounded like this friend of yours was your nudge of like, come to the SBDC, come over here. Like, let us, because if it wasn't for this amazing gentleman, you and I would never connected. And that for
True.
me is just so phenomenal. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you so much for sending
Thank
this
you.
person. And thank you, Haley, for not being stubborn and saying no.
Yeah. Because I did say no the first few times.
I know.
Common life
But
theme for me.
yeah, but it's just it's so beautiful. And that's why it's always a reminder of when the resilience that we have as individuals and as humans, the courage it takes for us to really move in the direction of pushing against the norm, pushing against what people, society have the expectations that they put on us. All of that takes courage to push against it and then to be willing to listen and trust the process that spirit helps you on. Because I always say this in all of my practice, and I know you and I working together, we've always agreed with this. Like, you just have to trust the process, trust divine timing, trust that things are going to work out the way they need to. It's scary, of course, when you're in the midst of it. It's freaking scary,
Mhm.
but look at you, like, ah. I love this for you, and it adds so much more admiration and love that I have for you, Haley, because
Aw.
this is, yeah, the courage you've had to just go through all of this. So I'm so in awe of you. So in awe.
Thank you.
So with all of this that you're doing, um, I know that you're still busy with your art. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with your art, especially because I know that you do things locally for your the Oklahoma listeners, and you also do things virtually. So tell us a little bit more about that because that seems like that's your baby too.
Yeah, the art.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is my baby. Thank you. Yeah, so I never know quite how to put it into words, but actually, I know exactly how to put it into words. I feel like this will be relatable to people. So when I worked that first PR job, and corporate America, right? Like 9 to 5. So it's very scheduled and follow the rules. And like I was answering to a whole board plus this whole community of members that were basically in effect paying my salary. And so I felt very, I had to be on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I had to follow the rules. I had to look good. I had to speak good. I had to represent the community. I was very, yeah, professional Haley,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool, right? But then I would go home, and originally I was trying to paint like realistic pictures, right? Like here's my photograph because took a few classes in college. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to make this painting look like that. And like, okay, got to mix the right color and I've got to like get the right curve. It's very tedious, right? Painting like that is it's almost scientific. It takes a
Mm-hmm.
lot takes a lot of energy. And I
Mm-hmm.
admire people who paint like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I no longer paint like that. So what happened is one day I was like, you know what? Like, I can't. And I just took paint and started throwing it on the canvas and smearing it and using my hands. And if I feel like this color, I'm going to use this color. And if I feel like making dots and scratch marks, I will. And what opened up was this authentic soul-led expression, which I later found out is called intuitive art. It's
Wow.
similar to abstract art, except there is no, when you approach the painting, you approach the blank canvas or the paper, you don't have an idea of what you're going to create. You're coming from the soul and just letting it come up and out. It may not be pretty, right? But it feels good. You feel led through the
Wow.
whole process. Um, and so then I've just had, I guess, 10 years of exploring that and teaching people that. And what happens, so I used to think, okay, I'm business coaching over here, I'm teaching art over here, and I thought they were very separate. But what has happened and what the universe divine has showed me is that no, it's the same. Because
Mm.
when you're working on your business or even in life, this is life coaching too, and you start to judge yourself, like this isn't good enough, I don't look good
Mm.
enough, I'm not good enough to be helping people. um I call them the four sparkle stoppers. So judgment, comparison, comparing yourself to other people. Well, my painting doesn't look like hers. My business doesn't look like hers. Um, Overthinking, the overthinking spiral. Um, Comparison, judgment. There's one more. Anyway, you can take the quiz. There's a quiz on my website to figure out your biggest sparkle stopper. The sparklinghippie.com/quiz. But anyway, I was noticing with my clients these four themes coming up again and again and again. That's what was cutting them off from the abundance they wanted in their life, from the abundance they wanted in their business. I'm like, you're overthinking it. You're not trusting your intuition. You're comparing yourself to others. You're not trusting your intuition. And so then I was like, they need to come do art. Because when you're approaching a blank canvas, there is no, and it's like, what color do you want? You can't overthink it. It's a grab and go and move and go and keep and move them through the process. And judgment has to disappear because everyone's looks totally different. You don't know what you're doing, neither does she, neither does he, and you learn. I always say it's safe to practice on paper or on a canvas. You learn these skills that you can apply then to life where you are, oh, okay, I'm letting go. I'm just trusting it. I'm just going with it, which is the same muscles we need to live fully from our authenticity and our intuition. So um, that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Oh my God. I absolutely love this. I love it, love it, love it. And it's so I've seen you because on your Instagram you do um live intuitive art, like kind of like mini sessions.
Yeah.
And so on one of them I started, I caught the very kind of like in the middle towards the end section. And and yes, I remember like thinking to myself, like, wow, like just to be able to express yourself and let yourself go freely. And so, okay, funny thing, as you're sharing all of this, I remembered right now, a memory came into mind right now. And now I'm thinking, oh, Cristal, this is a reminder for you to also kind of tap more into that part of you, more of my feminine energy, because I've been so deep in my masculine my whole freaking life. Like I've just
Mhm.
been deep in my masculine. So when I was in first grade, I used to love painting. I loved painting. Um, but the teacher, my first grade teacher, corrected me one time because I guess the brush stroke, I wasn't doing the brush stroke correctly,
Uh-huh.
and that traumatized me. I mean, I know people are like, that's not trauma, like that's not traumatic, but like, no, you
It,
don't understand. For a child who was trying to be perfect, for a child who felt that um she had to be the because I was a teacher's pet. I was little Miss Perfect, like, because I was just so adamant because of the disease of alcoholism, how it was affecting my childhood, like really was coming out even in school. And so to be corrected by the teacher of you're doing that wrong. I remember her words exactly were like, you're doing that wrong. And again, back then, I'm actually glad that I have two kids now and they don't get grades in elementary school. Uh we used to get grades in elementary school, and I got an F in art because I was not painting correctly. I was not painting in between the lines. I was not stroking the brush correctly. And I have not picked up another
yeah.
paintbrush since then. I
Yes.
just realized, I mean,
Yes.
I've painted since then. Don't get me wrong, like I've painted, but it's been kind of like I limit myself because in the back of my mind, this teacher I will always remember you stroke it up and down. And so when I do paint, I'm putting myself in that box. And so hearing you say scratch it, like I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm so
So
glad.
so yeah, so thank you for that because I can only imagine so many other people have probably stopped themselves from really expressing themselves through art because somewhere along your line, someone told you that was not the way to do it, or that
Yes.
was wrong, or that, yeah. And so thank you for sharing that because I needed to hear that. And I do hope that one of my listeners or all my listeners need to hear that too, because yeah,
Yeah,
art.
no. Thank you for sharing that experience because I guarantee you, I bet almost every single one of your listeners has a similar story. And
Mhm.
that is what hurts my stomach.
Yeah.
I feel like that's heartbreaking that I mean, you were, how old were you? Ish.
Well, I mean, first grade, I think that's what, 7? No, 6? Yeah, 6,
That's
7.
young.
That's
That's
young. Yeah.
young. I have a big wound around art and coloring in the lines at the same age, 6 or 7,
Mhm.
um, which is when your brain's still developing.
Yeah,
You're still
it is.
figuring out your core
Mhm.
ingraining. And for
Mhm.
someone, and even if it was later in life, a lot of people tell me about, junior high, high school, some art teacher telling them, oh, they don't have it or whatever.
Mhm.
So you're turning off this whole beautiful piece of you that is
Mhm.
designed to lead your life and help you express what you're feeling and release
Mhm.
emotions.
Mhm.
And I think that's why often, I will say often in these workshops, people will have emotional breakthroughs. I've seen so many women cry when I say scribble or when I say tear the
Mm.
page or when I
Oh,
say smear it because yeah, I've got chills.
I just do too.
And you're
I
thinking,
just got full body chills when you
me
said
too.
literally chills.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
like, whoa.
oh my
But
God. Yeah, got
for
goosebumps
someone
everywhere.
listening, you may be like, okay, they're crying because you told them to scribble. But
Mm.
we don't allow ourselves that freedom to be messy. Let it be not perfect. Perfectionism, that's the other sparkle
Yeah.
stopper.
Oh,
Not let it not be perfect.
that's me.
Yeah. Let it be messy. Let it be authentic. Rip it up. Like I think so much of Western society, we're taught, okay, you have to follow the rules. You have to color in between the lines. I think of, and I mean, no disrespect to people who love and teach and do these things, but I think of the sip and paints.
Mm.
We're all
Mhm.
going to make this painting. And here's the instructions. And they're cool. And I love that people are doing this because it does exercise creativity. But I go to those and I watch people, they're so tense. They're so afraid they're going to mess it up. And they're so afraid their flower petals don't look quite perfect like the person next door and they hate it. And then their shame comes up and then there's frustration if they ever even get to the room, right? And that is the exact opposite of what I feel like art and expression should be. It should be, if it's the ugliest picture in the world, you should feel proud of it because that needed to come up and out of you. And something heals
Mm.
when we do that, when we let just whatever come up and out. It's about practicing that muscle of just soul expression. And then you can take that to your life. And yeah, maybe you start a business and it fails and you make mistakes or, it doesn't look right or whatever, but you're able to trust yourself above all else, trust the intuition, trust that that is divine in you, speaking through you, leading you. And it's all meant for a purpose. It's all part of your journey and part of your
Ugh,
story.
you're getting me teary-eyed over here. Especially because it's so true, and I see this. I've, it's funny. Mother's Day is coming up, and I so listeners, I'm going to do a bonus episode for Mother's Day because I really do want to dedicate an episode to my kids. Because I let my kids paint. I let them draw. I don't correct them. I just there's no right or wrong way. And my little girl will draw like she draws me and and I'm just like and she'll tell me and I embrace it instead of telling her, "No, no, that looks wrong," or anything like. So it just feels nice. This was like a reminder for me to just let my kids express themselves the way they need to in their art too. Because I didn't get that privilege in school. Um because best believe like after that I definitely I colored perfectly in between the lines. I wanted it to look good. um so thank you for I needed to hear that. I needed to hear the confirmation that I'm doing the right thing with my kids. Because
Yeah.
it does, like there's times I it irks me where I want to correct them and I don't, thankfully I don't, but it's like a internal thing and I never knew what it was until now. Like this conversation. I'm like, "Oh, that's why I react the way I react sometimes internally." But
Yeah.
I love that. And so do you offer these sessions virtually or only in Oklahoma?
Yeah, I offer them in person and virtually. The thing with virtual, and I'm working on like reducing the barrier, right? But like the barrier is that people are like, I don't have a place to paint, where I can get messy and I don't have all the supplies. So I'm actually working on this little teaser, but I'm working on a group course that to come out this fall where you sign up, I'll send you all the supplies, right? Even a drop cloth, right? And you have everything you need. And then you can just log on and follow along and get messy and we're all in it together.
Oh, I
Um,
love that.
yeah. Because I think too, I hear so many people like I'll say like for these I do host workshops for some major companies, Google and Pinterest. I don't need to name drop, but um, but they're like, oh, okay, well, what art supplies? And they're worried about they're not good enough art supplies. They're not fancy enough. They're not expensive enough. And I firmly build a foundation on the the messier the supplies and like most of what I'm looking at these right here. These are made for 2-year-olds. And my other favorite art tool is made for 3 and under
Mhm,
or 3 and up, I guess. Because we get so precious. There's perfectionism creeping in again. Like, oh, I
mhm,
need the best quality paper and the best. But then what happens is you're afraid to use the paint because it's so expensive. You don't want to waste it. Right.
mhm.
Whereas if you just have full permission. And see, this is why I love providing the art supplies. Because I'm like, for some reason, we're looser with other people's stuff, right? It's
I
like,
know.
you
Yes.
can't hurt it. You don't have to pay for it. You can run out all the marker ink. I don't care. It's just there again. I want it to be as freeing as possible for people. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you for the teaser. I will be sure to keep an eye on that because yeah, I love that, especially because art really is a beautiful way of tapping into that feminine energy and let loose and the creativities just let the flow. And
Mhm.
and I think that's something else that you mentioned, and it's something that you do bring into your coaching practices because hello, I'm vouching for this. It's the perfectionism of let it be messy. And I remember you've said this so many times in our own sessions of Cristal, just let let your business be messy. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that has taken me so much so much work, so many tears, so many breakdowns. Um but it's true because once we do let go of that perfection, once we let go of those expectations, expectations are just going to lead to resentments. That's all it is. Expectations are feelings of resentments that you're holding. Like,
Yeah.
and so once at least I've learned, thanks to you, of just letting it go and being more in tune with my intuition.
Yeah.
And it oh, I love this. I love this so much. So now going back to the business side of, so again, the masculine energy. So we've
Yeah.
talked about how you bring in femininity and how you bring in the feminine energy into your coaching. Now the business side of it, you do have journals, you do have a lot of other amazing services that you provide. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I have, I keep looking up because they're sitting right here, but I have 4 journals. The fifth one's, well, it's done. I just need to get it printed. But
How
um,
cool.
this is one of my favorite ones I'm about to do a workshop on. But yeah, so this one's Dream Big, Discover Your Life's Biggest Desires. I have Limited Abundance, Brazenly Beautiful, and Sparkling Success. So there's a few, but yeah, I want to help everyone. Right. So if you can't, if you don't want to work full on one and dive deep and all this, start with a journal, start with, kind of getting comfortable asking yourself deeper questions and letting what comes up and not judging it. Right. It's the same muscles. So that's one way you can start this work on your own, kind of working with me, kind of doing it on your own. Um, I also do one-on-one coaching. So, you kind of mentioned it, but it is definitely a blend of the masculine, feminine, as you've seen. Some days we're like hard hitting, like marketing. Here's what you need to do. We need to kick your website and shake. And then the next session, it may be like, okay, you're overthinking it. Like, let's do some visualizations. Like, you have to let go. You have to go with it. So I always say I kind of blend the two for people. Um, and then yeah, these virtual workshops, I offer them in person as well, but some of the easiest ways for people to log on is to, come to a virtual workshop, hang out with a cool group of people. There's a lot of, I always think like we're sitting in a circle and soul sharing because a lot of deep stuff comes up really quick. So I do have one coming up on May 29th. So for any of you
Okay.
listeners who want to come, I believe it's $34. I don't have that in front of me, but I think it's $34. So come enjoy a good conversation. We're doing creating a recipe for your most abundant life. So, and
Oh.
that's art. We'll be doing some art and journaling, breath work, kind of mixing it all together. So,
How exciting. And it's virtual. So how if any listeners are interested, how can they sign up?
so the easiest way, just go over to my website, the Sparkling Hippie. It's hippie with an IE, sparklinghippie.com. At the top, there's a promo bar, sign up for the next workshop. You can click that, get all settled and all ready for that. Yeah, and then if you want to the sparklinghippie.com/quiz, you can take that Sparkle Stoppers quiz. So
Mhm.
yeah.
How exciting. How exciting. So yes, go check out the website and I'll be sure to have all of in the description all of Haley's social media handles, her website. I'll be sure to have all of that info for all of you people. Especially if you're listening to this podcast after May 29th, be sure to subscribe to her cuz you have an email list serve, correct? So yeah,
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
updated cuz yeah, I mean, not again, not to brag, but I vouch for I vouch for Haley like profoundly. She's helped me so much in my even with my own journey of becoming a business life coach or spiritual life coach and really tapping into those parts because yeah, those sparkling stoppers. I relate to all four of them. It's not just one, but
Yeah.
all four of them for sure. So it's been a beautiful, amazing journey for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Oh,
so much.
no, thank you, Haley.
Yeah, I love working with you. So it's mutual.
Oh, oh, thank you. So before we close this out, do you have any last words you want to share with anyone? Anything that you just want to this is what I like to call the cheeseman, like, because I when I bring in spirit, it's like, okay, spirit, what do I need to tell them? Like, it may not make sense to everyone, but what is something that you want to share with closing this out?
I just want to remind everyone, to go live your best life. Go do whatever that thing is that calls you, that niggling in your soul. I feel like that's been my whole journey. It's just something scratching at my heart. Just follow that and don't let, I kind of touched on it. Don't let finances stop you. Don't let other people stop you. Don't let the fear of being perfect stop you. If you have that dream, I believe that dream is meant for you. The divine gives us dreams that we're meant to pursue. So the journey is overcoming the obstacles and getting out of your own way. So that's my cheese myth for everyone today.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Haley. Thank you so much for this engaging interview. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope on your journey and your courage. Like, again, I really hope you take moments to recognize how courageous you are. I know it probably didn't feel like that in those moments, but yeah, the ovaries you carry, woman. Those ovaries you carry.
I need to hear that. Thank you. Thank you so much for that reminder.
No, no, thank you for all of this. And yes, so everyone be sure to go give a like, follow, and so yeah, and with all of that, I am sending you all so much fire and butterflies. And as always, don't forget, love your now. Bye.